أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين سيما بقية الله الأعظم روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء. Most of us go through life without knowing what is life. And because we are living and we are going through a life, it leads to frustration. It leads us to be negative because of all the problems that we face and all the difficulties that we go through. And when you look at life and you see what it is, and when we go through it, we should be looking at what it is because we're living it. And since we don't, it ends up that we go through it and we don't take advantage of what it's actually about. Now, when you look at life, I explained to you, sometimes we need to have the main issue right now is for us to have a general view of life. Just an outlook. What is your view of life? What do you think life is? Just a general, not specific, or not any particulars, but actually what is life in the complete sense, just a whole picture, a wholesome picture. So, what do you think is life? What is your view of life? That's more important than trying to understand what Islam says about it. Because if you hear what Islam says about it, or what Allah says about life is, it really would not affect you or influence you because you haven't reached that conclusion. As a matter of teaching and education, it's important for any teacher that he makes the student understand the issue, not tells him the answer. Saying the answer to someone doesn't help him to know the problem or how to solve it. The real idea behind learning is to understand how to get to the conclusion, how to get the right answer. And that's the more important thing. If I just say, Allah says this, or, Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam says that, you will be like, Alhamdulillah, very good. So then what? Then nothing happens. Nothing happens. It doesn't affect us. We know about something, but it doesn't influence our life. And that's what's important, for us to know what is life and have a general view of life. What is it? And it starts from us, from me. What is my view of life? That's really more important, because let me see what that view is, and from there we start working on it. There must be some view I made up because I'm living it. I am, I won't say my age, but let's say I'm 35. I have lived 35 years of my life, and have I made up an idea of what my life is? Do I have an idea what it is? For example, you see people asking you, so where are you headed towards in life? Have you ever paid attention to that question and them asking that question? See what they're asking about. Because really, it is an essential question in all of us. And what we want to discuss in this month is about this very question as to what is life. Because if we're living it, we need to know about it. And once we get to know about it, then our whole attitude changes. Everything that we're doing, our attitude is going to change. Anyone who has learned about life, you see their whole attitude changes. They're like different people altogether. It's like their eyes have opened up. Movies try to portray that. If you see some movies, you'll see that they try to portray how people understand and realize something, and all of a sudden everything changes in life. People in philosophy tries to explain that. But it's a reality that happens whenever a person tries to think about his life. that's when he starts to philosophize. There's certain things that make a human being a philosopher. One of them is thinking about life. You'll see that. And every time you start to just pay attention, few minutes, just say, oh, what is my life? Where am I headed towards? You will see you start to become a philosopher and start to looking at the philosophy behind it. Most of the times, people don't pay attention to their life. You'll see that's why it's really one of the places where you see that you start paying attention to life is when you're going through problems. Whenever you go through problems or some sort of a drama in your life, if it's small or big, it doesn't matter. You will see right away, you start asking the question, why am I alive? What is this life for? Where am I headed? Right? See, when you get a job, you don't ask that question. But when you do lose a job, that's when you ask that question. Why am I alive? Where are we going towards? Right? When we get married, people, I know those people. Nobody asks the question, why are we living? Let me think about the philosophy of why am I alive? But everyone who's going through a divorce, you'll see, they're all asking that question. It's reality. Every time you have a problem, you'll see it happens. People start talking about life. And that's what I want to speak about in these days, to understand what it is. What is it? My friends, truly, many things. You want to become a Muslim? You want to become a believer? You want to start practicing Islam? You want to become a good person? What does that mean? To pray. Why are you praying? What does prayer have to do with you? Unless you don't know what life is, prayer has no meaning. Really. Your Creator has no meaning. Allah, when you look at Allah, the Creator, the Master who made us, really has no meaning if I don't know what this life is. I believe in Allah. Okay, good. What purpose does that serve? What purpose does that serve? And that's why life is the question that we must talk about first. And it should be defined. It should be known. It should be something that we can actually feel. Because when we know what life is, as I gave a guarantee yesterday, I guarantee you that by the end of this month, you'll be a different person. Salawat. So one of the things that we need to do right now is to make sure that we don't fall into particulars and small things. If we start dwelling on small things, you know what happens? We get so much drowned in small things that we lose the big picture. We lose the big picture. And that's why a lot of people who practice their religion and faith, they don't look at the big picture of what the faith is trying to lead them to. But what they do is that they try to pay attention to specifics. And when you pay attention to specifics, you get drowned in them. For example, if it's told to you, do not do ghibat, backbite, talk bad about others. Now what happens? You see this person say, I need to pay attention to what I say. Did I say something wrong? Did I say something wrong? Did I do something wrong? Did I say something wrong? I mean, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing that? Is this what Allah wanted to do to you by saying that? Or is there some other meaning behind it? What is it? You see, if you don't know what life is, we don't know where this comes in. Why should you do ghibat? What does that have to do with my life? Do you know what life is to understand that, where it fits in? It's really important for us to do that. You see, and when we don't know what life is, then every burden becomes a problem. Everything becomes a problem. For example, prayer is a problem for us. When we pray to Allah and do salat and make namaz, it is a problem. Why? Because we are being made to do something. It's a burden on us. That's why it's called taklif. Taklif means it's a burden, something that you have to carry. You have to pray on time, within that time. And now you see the burden comes as soon as the time comes, right? You know, okay, it's easy. Well, there is that burden, but it's not that big of a deal because you still have until the end of time to pray. But then as time goes by, then the burden starts becoming real. Until you come to the last half an hour, I gotta pray. You know, it comes into you, right? Last 5 minutes, and then you get really nervous. What's going on, right? So why is this? It's a burden on us. There's no denying that it's a burden. And when it's a burden, then the natural question is, why do I have to go through this? Why should I go through this? What benefit does it have for me? And when I say me, my life. Really, what is that? What is it for? If it's not related to my life, then it doesn't make sense. Because, you see, Allah made me alive. He gave me a life. Life is the vessel where everything is happening. It is the vessel where everything is happening in it. And if we don't know what the vessel is, then we don't know what's going on around us. And when we don't know what's going on around us, it's senseless. That's why many people become frustrated and hopeless after practicing Islam for many years. You see that you keep on praying, and then you lose interest. It happens to many people. They think they're losing their faith. They're not. They need to understand they're not losing faith when they go through that period of doubt, of being ambiguous, of questioning. They're not losing faith when they're doing that. It's a natural question to ask. The reason they're asking the question is because they don't know what life is. We need to know what life is first before we understand Islam or faith or Iman or even Allah. What is life? And that's where we need to get going. I'll give some examples so you understand how important this subject is. I am not speaking of what life is. I am speaking about what life ought to be. You know, we'll speak about what life is later on in the month. Right now, I'm just raising hypothetical questions and issues so that you all can understand what it is. So let's send the salawats. A lot of people, when they want to teach their children and they want to make them better people, they make the mistake of teaching them about Islam and ideology and aqaid and fiqh, thinking that this is going to be useful and this will help them somehow. So, whenever you take your child to a Sunday school where they teach them Usul al-Din are 5, right? They teach them that this is Tawheed and Adl and Nabuwat and Imamat and Qiyamat, you know. So, these are things that they teach them, thinking that by learning this, somehow he's going to be a good person. Now, what they don't seem to understand is that, really, is this how we should be training our children? Is this the right way of doing it? Because usually what I see out of experience is that the more that you are going to give them any of these teachings and force it down their throat and make them go through all of that, really, if they don't see the relevance of these things in their life, they start to despise them. Everyone would. If I go through a relationship, a bipolar relationship, right? And I have to live through that and tolerate that. You see that? And if I don't know why I'm tolerating it, I would start despising it, being displeased by it. Right? Let's say, for example, if you're going through a job and you're miserable at that job and you hate your boss. And, I didn't want to give the example of marriage. I'm sticking to something neutral, right? What happens at the end? Because of that, you start despising the reason that you are going through troubles in life. You hate that. You hate your boss. You hate your job. And this hatred makes you negative, and it makes you a person that you don't want to be, and you hate yourself for being this negative individual. It ends up like that. Why did you go through that? Because you have this burden on you, this problem on you, where you're going through it and not understanding what is it for. This makes a person really hate himself for it. And that's why many people, in fact, most people on earth, they are going through this state, this condition in their life. They're going through things, they're going through life, and they hate life. Why do they hate life? Because they have trouble, they have problems in suffering and pain, and they don't know why they have this pain. What's the purpose behind it? And they hate it. That's why there's more hatred in the world than love. Why is there more hatred in the world? Because people are going through life and they don't know why they're going through the problems that they're living through. And it makes them hate themselves for going through this. And they hate life and they hate everything about it. That's why we want to learn about life first. Learning about life is important. Why? Because it will help us to understand, why do I pray? What does prayer have to do with my life? What does Allah have to do with my life? What does Imam Hussein have to do with my life? First, we need to understand life. And how do we know that? Because, when Ahlul Bayt taught Islam, when Imam Ali alayhi salam, when he taught Islam, if you see the teaching, the methodology that he used to teach Islam, because it's very important as an educator. If you have ever been a teacher or if you have been through school, you know that an educator will appreciate what I'm saying. They have to teach something methodically. It cannot be something that, I just take this and that and just throw it at the student and think that he's going to understand it. First thing needs to come first, and then second, and then third, and then fourth. Everything needs to come in order. So when Ahlul Bayt and when Imam Ali, I know it's an echo, All right. It happens. And that's what I'm saying. If I didn't know why the technical difficulty was there, I would be hating the situation. It happens. When you go through something and you don't know what it's for, you have hating it. That's why we need to, if you want to understand anything in life, you need to understand first this. And when we look at Imam Ali, how he taught Islam is very important. I gave the reference to many of you before, but if you go to Nahjul Balagha, and if you look at the letters that Imam Ali has written, and I think it's letter number 31, letter number 31, for those who want to just go there and glance at it, right, is a letter that is the most comprehensive letter, the most comprehensive teaching that Imam Ali has given. And by comprehensive, I mean broad-based. You see, many of the letters and teachings that Imam Ali has is for specific people. For example, the letter that he wrote to Malik-e-Ashtar, which is very well known in the world, which, for example, hangs in the walls of the United Nations, right, as a letter that is there for people who govern. Now, that letter, great letter, amazing teachings, great principles, lofty principles, and all of them the truth, but not for everyone. For people who govern others, who are in charge of others. Those who are in charge of others, it's for them, not for everyone. If you look at, for example, the letter he has or the khutbah he has for muttaqeen, it's for muttaqi people, not average Joes like us. For them, they need to read that and see, how and what are the signs of the pious. Now, when we look at this way, right, when you look at this letter number 31 in Nahj al-Balagha is a letter that Imam Ali has written to his children. He has written it for his children. And in that letter, you see, when you look at how he taught, he does not teach about Tawheed at the beginning. He doesn't teach about Nabuwat or Qiyamah. He does. But later, before he thought about anything, the first thing he teaches his children, broad-based for everyone, the first thing he teaches is that the first thing he teaches to his children, saying that you should know, is about life. First of all, understand what is life. Know what is life. You see that, how he teaches, for example, he says, right off the bat, he says, you know what life is? Life is a vessel in which you will never achieve your dreams. Imagine that he teaches about life, reality of life, what it is, and then when he teaches you, he said, then now you learn about Tawheed. What is Allah? What is Nabuwat? What is Qiyamah? What is prayer? What is these things? Now learn about these things. Now you will see where it fits in there. So my friends, Islam without knowing life will become senseless. And that's why many people end up frustrated practicing Islam all their life. They practice it and they become frustrated at the end. Why? Why am I doing this? And that's why we want to learn about life. That's the subject that we have. The importance of knowing what life is. And that's it. That's all I want to say today. And I said, I'm just raising the subject up, and as we go along, I would slowly understand what it is. And we'll come to the nitty-gritty, the details, the juicy details of what life is, as we go forward. All right, so we want, again, as I said, right, since we have slowly that we are building up, in these days, I just want you to know that we will have question and answers on the weekend, Friday and Saturday. So those people who want to ask questions, inshallah, you can do that. We'll also have the group, the WhatsApp group that we have. If you're not in the WhatsApp group, give you a number so we can add to it. You can ask the questions there also, and we will write those questions down and answer them on Friday and Saturday as the time comes, so that on the weekends we can end at this time. Well, very well. So inshallah, with that, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and the blessing to take advantage of this month, this holy month that He has given us, and the opportunity He has given us in it to make our prayers, to keep fast, to obey His commands. Allah, we ask You that in this month, that all the mu'mineen who are here, who are going through life and going through whatever is required of them in this life, we ask You to give them the blessing to live it in the best way possible. Allah, we ask You that all the people who are here and elsewhere, all the mu'mineen who are in difficulty and in hardship, going through pain and suffering, Allah, all those people, no matter where they are, who are unable to fast, not because they are sick or because of other reasons, but because of the fact they have no food, and they have nothing, and they're going through difficulties. Wherever mu'mineen are, Allah, we ask You that You help them and You relieve them of their pain and the difficulties that they're in. Oh Allah, we ask You that as we go through these months in this fasting, increase every day and improve every day that we fast. Make it better than the last one. Oh Allah, we ask you that all the mu'mineen who are gathered here and elsewhere, and all the people who are sick and ill, that you give them cure from their illness and the difficulty that they're going through. Oh Allah, I ask you that you have promised us certain things. And in this month we ask you about those promises. And the number one thing that you have promised us is that you promised us that a time will come when we get to see our Imam. We ask you, Allah, that let us be a part of fulfilling that promise. And give us the chance and opportunity to see the Imam in our lifetime. Oh Allah, we ask you to accept the ibadat in the worship that we are doing and the small efforts that we are putting towards your path, and make it useful for your path and the Imam to come, and with that make the heart of Bibi Fatima happy with us. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Salawat.